Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. Caribbean Airlines adds specific layers of security to its Guyana operations to ensure appropriate security protocols are followed. A special child protection unit to be established under the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And the House of Representatives debate the Nurses and Midwives Registration Amendments Bill to address the shortage of nurses. Thank you for joining us. Caribbean Airlines is assuring passengers that all flights are operating as scheduled and that specific layers of security have been added to its Cheddi-Jagan International Airport operations in Georgetown, Guyana.
The advisory of added security and non-postponement of flights comes after a travel advisory posted by the United States Embassy in Guyana this weekend, warning passengers to postpone travel on Caribbean Airlines for the next 2 days, as there is an alleged security risk specific to the Guyana route. The national carrier is assuring the traveling public that special security measures are already in place. According to a media release from the company, specific layers of security have been added at CAL's Guyana airport operations, as well as CAL's personnel are working closely with all authorities to ensure appropriate security protocols are followed to ensure safe, comfortable and on-time flight departures. The release stated that all Caribbean Airlines flights are operating as scheduled. On a daily basis, CAL has flights that leave the Cheddi-Jagan International Airport in Georgetown, Guyana, destined for JFK International Airport in New York. They include non-stop flights between the two destinations and also a stopover at Piarco International Airport in this country. The National Operations Center is ensuring coordination via the Civil Aviation Authority of Trinidad and Tobago with all agencies at Piarco International Airport. This as reassurances come from National Operations Center Director Garvin Hira. Mr. Hira reassures that contingencies are in place to treat with all threats regarding the CAL situation. The National Operations Center will be monitoring the developments throughout the day and will be escalating vigilance to support CAL and its partner agencies. Felicia Wilson-Mon, News 4.
In other news, Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Persad-Bissassa has outlined the law with regards to statutory rape. In an attempt to tackle these issues, a public education program and a special child protection unit under the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service will be launched.
Statutory rape is created under Section 6(1) of the Act. A man who has sex with a female person who is not his wife and who is under 14, so if the child is under 14, is guilty of an offence whether or not she consents to the intercourse, and whether or not at the time of the intercourse he believed her to be 14 years of age or more, whether he believes it or not.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissassa making the law known regarding all cases of statutory rape. In a special press conference held on Friday, the Prime Minister says parents and guardians as well as medical practitioners have a responsibility to report all incidents of teenage pregnancy and sexual intercourse with minors or face the effects of the law.
Any person who without reasonable excuse fails to comply with the requirements of subsection 1 is guilty of an offence and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of $15,000 or to imprisonment for a term of 7 years or both such fine and imprisonment. So it's a very serious offence here. Just that failure to carry out your legal obligation to report where you have reasonable grounds to believe that a sexual offence has been committed.
She says a public education program aimed at sensitizing the public on the law regarding this issue will commence.
We recognize that there is a serious and grave danger facing our nation's children. We have considered the matter and will take action to address the problem. We know this has been a long festering problem. And so, in light of the lack of awareness, as exemplified, as I say, that we've been seeing in the public domain with different comments from people as to the status of the law, I have mandated the Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development, headed by Minister Dikoto, to do a public education program with respect to the law on this matter and such other matters as may help to reduce the incidence of statutory rape and or teenage pregnancies.
Meanwhile, she noted that a child protection unit will be established under the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service with the aim of handling reports and cases involving minors.
We have working together with the Minister of National Security and the Commissioner of Police. A child protection unit was proposed following consultation with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Force Service. Child protection unit was proposed, and the Minister tells me that they have been working with the Commissioner to have that implemented and up and running. When you compare the number of cases being investigated and persons charged as compared to the number of teenage pregnancies, and it doesn't take any rocket scientists to deduce that, yes, underreporting.
And how bad is the underreporting?
It will be difficult to say without further empirical data. And this is where with the task force, the Child Protection Task Force, they can now investigate this matter, come up with the empirical evidence, data, which will allow us, which will make us better able to make policy, set policy guidelines, set policy as a whole with respect to a matter like this. So if that task force, now we're going to give them that mandate, they can bring further research to bear, and that research will guide our policy making.
The Prime Minister notes that implementation and push of this law is in keeping with international best standards. Kimberam Calawan, News 4.
News 4 continues right after the break. Stay with us. Minister of Health, Dr. The Honorable Fuad Khan, says changes to the Nurses and Midwives Registration Amendments Bill will seek to address the shortage of nurses within the local health system. This is expected to facilitate the registration of specialized nurses and allow for greater autonomy within the Nursing Council.
New legislation aimed at addressing the shortage of specialized nurses in the nation's hospitals will seek to improve and give more power to the Nurses Registration Council. Health Minister Dr. Fuad Khan, speaking in the lower house on Friday afternoon, says the changes come even after the ministry implemented new measures that encourage proper training and the chance to pass the examination. However, the minister says amendments will facilitate the registration of this group of health practitioners.
This act is currently entitled the Nurses and Midwives Registration Act. However, we are now proposing that it be renamed to the Nurses and Midwives Act, as these amendments will widen the scope of the Act. This Act will now provide us for the registration and regulation of advanced practice nurses, midwives, nurses, nursing assistants, and other recognized specialties, and for matters connected therein. Clause 5, Mr. Speaker, seeks to introduce a number of new words with their corresponding meanings in the interpretation section of the Act. Such include a definition of advanced practice nurse, nurse intern, and nursing personnel.
Amendments come after 60 years since the bill was first laid. Minister Khan says the changes to the bill will give greater autonomy to the council, allowing for an ease in issuing licenses.
Clause 6 seeks to give wider powers to the council in order to better regulate the profession of nursing. Such functions include the opening and maintenance of registers and rolls, the registering, the enrolling, the certifying and licensing of nursing and midwifery personnel, the power in determining in collaboration with the ministry with responsible health the qualifications necessary for the registration, the enrollment, the certification and licensing of nursing personnel, setting standards for education and practice of nursing and midwifery personnel, developing a code of ethics and conduct for nursing personnel, monitoring the adherence to and investigating breaches of standards and codes of ethics and conduct, promoting the interest of the nursing profession, and advising the minister on the requirements for securing continued competence of the registered nurse and enrolled nursing assistants under this act, and advising the minister with respect to amendments to the law relating to nursing and midwifery as it considers necessary.
The health minister says this will also facilitate elections and appointment to a new council.
It is our position that the creation of the post of registrar is in keeping with contemporary practice. This individual can, under the guidance of the council, discharge certain functions. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, Clause 10 introduces the position of registrar and details of their duties. Mr. Speaker, the registrar will be responsible for Inter alia, establishment, keeping and maintenance of the registrar, issuing of certificates and licenses, cancelling certificates and suspension or revocation of licenses, addition to and removal of names from the register, receiving fees and keeping open the registers for public inspection.
Kimberam Calawan, News 4.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago is developing a national environmental impact mitigation and assessment response framework. This framework will provide coordination between different government agencies, industry sectors, and other groups with interest on matters relating to the environment, the energy sector, transport, and fisheries. To this end, a task force has been appointed to oversee all activities necessary to address environmental impacts of oil spills and related activities along the nation's coastline.
Members of the newly established National Environmental Task Force, NEATF, were officially presented with their letters of appointment by Senator the Honorable Ganga Singh, Minister of the Environment and Water Resources, signaling government's serious stance on environmental matters and also to ensure proper procedures are followed in the event of an environmental emergency in this country. 10 persons make up the new task force. They include, among others, Dr. Alan Bachan, Chairman of the Environmental Management Authority, Professor Inda Ramnarayan, Chairman of the Institute of Marine Affairs, Ms. Christine Chana Singh, Director of Fisheries Division at the Ministry of Food Production, and Dr. Rahana Juman from the Institute of Marine Affairs, Wetlands Ecology. Minister Ganga Singh said 3 other members of the task force will be selected in the coming weeks. The task force will oversee all activities necessary to address the environmental impacts of the oil spills at Petitrin affecting the coastline of the southwest peninsula of Trinidad and Tobago. It will also provide guidance to the Environmental Management Authority as a lead agency in the cleanup efforts. The terms of reference of the task force include, among others, to confirm all sources of the oil spills into the Gulf of Paria, to establish shoreline cleanup and assessment teams, SCAT, to undertake investigation surveys of damaged resources and select study sites for damage assessment. Felicia Wilson, Mon News 4.
The agriculture sector policy for 2014 to 2018 was among the discussions at the Results-Based Management and Evaluation Workshop hosted by the Ministry of Food Production. In keeping with government's mandate, the policies are aligned to overarching goals in the government's manifesto of poverty reduction, food security, and economic development.
Mrs. Patricia LeBaud Grant, Chief Technical Officer of the Ministry of Food Production, sought to ask the gathering if they think the Ministry of Food Production, the lead agency for agricultural management, should engage in result-based management. She says since the People's Partnership Government came to the fore in 2010, food production was mandated to develop a strategic planning framework.
We prepared a strategic plan for the ministry, including an action plan outlining our vision, mission, core values, and strategies. Further, an operational plan was prepared, which is called the National Food Production Action Plan 2012 to 2015, fondly referred to as the Green Book, that focused on a 5-pronged approach, priorities, and targets.
This, she says, will target the outdated sector policy, which was last updated in 2005 for review.
With technical assistance from the FAO, a methodology was followed in which we developed problem trees, we developed root causes, we outlined attendant causes and effects, we developed solution or objective trees and logical frameworks for all the priority commodities selected in the operational plan.
Several cross-cutting issues including land, environment, and finance were also identified. Results-based management, RBM, she says, is the next logical step in this process. Other policies were drafted with the help of their stakeholders, including food and nutrition and a fisheries policy. These policies are meant to provide the guidelines for the development of the sector, but they cannot stand alone. They must be grounded on a national policy framework.
This framework seeks to measure government's performance in the context of priority, which was outlined in the medium-term policy framework 2011-2014 and is called Innovation for Lasting Prosperity.
Delivering remarks on behalf of the Minister of Food Production, Ms. Myrna Thompson, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Food Production, says the ministry has to engage in result-based management.
Has this meant for the government, for the citizens of this country? And in an area when we are dealing with limited resources, more and more the citizens require answers to what are you doing with the resources of the country. Even to get funding from agencies like FAO, IDB, everybody is moving towards a results-based outcomes, measuring of outcomes, so that they can account to their governments, for their taxpayers, for the citizens, exactly what we are doing.
The National Performance Framework is linked to the Public Sector Investment Program that translates into results-based budgeting. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
More news after the break. Stay with us. With 4 rounds of matches remaining, Club Sando once again occupies the top spot in the Blink B-Mobile National Super League. The Southerners now hold a 2-point advantage over Guay United following their match versus Joe Public on Sunday. Wayne Cunningham has the highlights from that encounter.
With Malabar FC losing 3 points and 3 goals for registration indiscretions, Club Sando had a chance to go clear at the top of the National Super League points table with a win over former champions Joe Public FC on Sunday at the Atterbolden Stadium in Couva. It was one-way traffic early in the first half, but Sando failed to capitalize on its advantage in the possession department. Even the normally deadly Tiba McKnight had problems finding the goal mouth. John Ramses Thomas was also in inspired form in the Joe Public goal. He was the man mainly responsible for the goalless first half. As the second half began, Joe Public was still defending. But you know what they say about pressure, and it rang true in the 47th minute, as Thomas could not stop a well-taken header. Kevon Noriega meeting the Devon Modest corner well to make it 1-0 Club Sando. Arvid Applewhite tried to sneak in an equalizer for Joe Public, but only found the side netting with his cheeky free kick. It was a set play at the other end which produced goal number 2 for Sando. As the free kick from Corny Thomas was too hot to handle, and the rebound was banged home by Karen Smith in the 69th minute. Club Sando stepped off the gas after that strike, and Joe Public sought to take advantage. This weaving run reaping rewards for the Eastern Lions, as referee Michael London points to the penalty spot, following the infringement by Noriega. Kevin Caprietta neatly dispatched the spot kick to make it 2-1 in the 89th minute. But that was too late, as Club Sando held on for the win, which took them to the top of the table with 4 games remaining. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
When we come back, Queen's Hall is in the spotlight. Stay with us. Queen's Hall has taken the lead in providing advertising opportunities for its customers with the erection of an electronic marquee. The latest initiative is expected to have a great impact on the public's awareness of events taking place at the renowned performance space.
I don't know how many times you normally drive past the Queen's Hall and see all the cars over there, and you think, well, what is going on? Yeah? You see all these people nicely dressed up, and you think by yourself, am I missing out on something? And that's due to the fact that we are a theater, what in fact is not showing.
This is no longer the case, as Queen's Hall officially unveiled its long-awaited marquee or electronic billboard that will advertise current and upcoming shows at the theatre. On Wednesday evening, the historic unveiling took place in the presence of Minister of Arts and Multiculturalism, Dr. the Honourable Lincoln Douglas, and many of the directors of productions that are held at the performance space.
This new electronic signboard is a fantastic opportunity, because what we're doing now is that we're giving everybody who rents the Queen's Hall get by definition already 300 free ads of 10 seconds. Yeah, that comes just with your booking. So for the people who don't have the opportunity to advertise outside of that, at least there is some form of communication.
Dr. Hillwig said this is the second part of an initiative to assist Queen's Hall's customers in communicating to the public the shows at the venue, as well as to assist in the development of local theatre in general. He explained that the first initiative involved the use of print media.
Thanks especially to our general manager, we found a sponsor, and over the last 2 years, you will see in at least only one of the newspapers, because we don't have the resources for all, to have one day, on Thursday, you see there a column, what is on in the theater, in nice yellow and red, yeah, nicely sticking out. But it's only one day. And we are so unselfish that we not only advertise what is on in Queen's Hall, but also what is in the Little Carib, what is in the Central Bank, what is in Napa North, what is in Napa South. And for who it is? In the first place, for our customers. And our customers are our theater producers, and of course our customers are our patronage, the people who are coming in. But we do it for them, and especially for the not so well-to-do.
Speaking on behalf of the many clients of Queen's Hall, Ms. Penelope Spencer expressed her gratitude for the initiative.
We are thankful that you had the foresight to initiate this. We know this electronic signboard will benefit theatre greatly, giving us maximum exposure whilst also lending an eye out to the public with their public service and community announcements. We see this erection of the signboard as a sign of encouraging theatre in a visible and viable way. And it's our hope that it will even encourage a whole new audience. Here's to further success, and thanks for inviting us to share in this memorable moment.
Minister of Arts and Multiculturalism, Dr. the Honourable Lincoln Douglas, praised the members of the board of Queen's Hall for their vision and the work they have been doing for local theatre and performances.
Queen's Hall is a very special place to us. It is filled with history, and not only history in the sense of things gone by, but also a kind of vision for us about how we should organize ourselves as a performing arts space, and a futuristic vision of what we should be doing. We want to thank the leaders here for their constant vision of upgrading this space that we call Queen's Hall, and upgrading the idea of what it means to be an artist performing in an excellent space. And so they continue to provide the innovation, the guidance, and the guiding light in terms of all of our performance spaces.
Queen's Hall was built in 1959 through the efforts of the music community, led by Mrs. May Johnstone, a music teacher, and partially funded by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. It is designed as a multi-purpose facility to accommodate theatrical presentations and various community activities, including sport, and has seating for 754. The Arts Centre provides an environment for a wide variety of world-class events and an eclectic mix of theatre, music, dance, and other performing arts disciplines. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.